The Greenfield District of the Indiana Department of Transportation, with the oversight of the Federal Highway Administration, is advancing a project to rehabilitate the historic bridge that carries US 27, also known as Meridian Street, over the Salamone River in downtown Portland. Amidst the current health pandemic, this recording is intended to provide the public the opportunity to learn about the project and provide comments in lieu of being in attendance at the in-person public hearing. This narrated video may also be used to supplement what is presented at the in-person public hearing. Over the course of this video, we will cover the project team and stakeholders, the intent of the public hearing process and how it is formatted, and ways in which you, the public, may provide comments on the project. After this, we will discuss the environmental document that has been prepared for the project, as well as the process that projects involving oversight from the Federal Highway Administration must follow. This includes the identification of the purpose and need for the project, and the alternatives that were evaluated to address the identified purpose and need. Following this, we will navigate a description of the preferred alternative, as well as the schedule for the project, the next steps, and who you can contact should you have questions. For those that attend the in-person portion of the public hearing, this will mark the time at which a formal comment period will begin. During this time, attendees wanting to make a public statement will be able to do so and have their comment transcribed and addressed by the project team after the hearing. However, persons unable to attend the in-person portion of the public hearing will still be able to provide comments on the project that will be treated the same as comments received at the in-person portion of the public hearing. We will be discussing this later in the presentation. This project is being sponsored by the Greenfield District of the Indiana Department of Transportation. Mr. Jeremy Green is the INDOT project manager and is responsible for overseeing the planning, design, and eventual construction, as well as the schedule and budget of the project. Mr. Ricky Clark represents the Office of Public Involvement and is responsible for ensuring the process by which the public is engaged follows state and federal guidelines. Lockmuller Group is the design consultant, responsible for preparing engineering and environmental services for the project. Ms. Caitlin Shergalis is the Senior Structural Engineer and Project Manager from Lockmuller Group. Mr. Chad Costa is the Senior Environmental Manager for the project and is responsible for ensuring the environmental processes set forth by the state and the federal government are followed. Because of the higher level of environmental documentation required for this project, approval by the Federal Highway Administration is required. Mr. Robert Dirks is the administration's representative for projects occurring within the Greenfield District and will be the individual that approves the environmental document. No project is designed in a vacuum, and this one is no different. Since early last year, this project has included participation by a variety of stakeholders that have been able to provide input on the project at various times. This includes representatives of Jay County and the City of Portland, that is, elected and local officials representing these two governmental bodies, as well as state and federal elected officials. You, the residents and citizens of Jay County and the City of Portland, are important stakeholders in this transportation project, and so are commuters that use this road to patronize businesses in Portland, not to mention the businesses themselves within the project area, are all important stakeholders in transportation projects. Other entities having the potential to be affected by transportation projects, and therefore considered important stakeholders, are emergency service providers, school districts, churches, and community organizations. Also, because this project does involve a historic bridge, participation by designated individuals and organizations affiliated with historic preservation are also engaged as stakeholders. This group is referred to as Section 106 consulting parties, as they specifically participate in the Section 106 process, a federal process that evaluates project impacts to historic properties. A formal public notice for this hearing was advertised in the August 6th and August 13th editions of the Commercial Review. In addition, direct mailings of this notice were sent to the project mailing list maintained by the design consultant. This list includes the identified project stakeholders, the adjacent property owners. This included all adjacent property owners from the larger project this bridge project was once a part of, and persons that signed into the public information meeting that was held in August of last year, and who provided contact information or that submitted a comment following the meeting. Mailing of this notice is a courtesy we provide, but please note that sometimes our address list may not be up to date. If you did not receive a notice of the public hearing and would like to ensure you receive future project information, please be sure to provide the project contact persons provided at the end of this presentation with your mailing address and/or your email. You will then be added to the mailing list. Transportation projects follow a development process which starts at a point of conception where it is selected for advancement, whether through some level of planning study or feasibility study. At this point, there is normally some level of early coordination with the project stakeholders to assess sentiment for the project, as well as identify any early concerns that need to be considered. Following the completion of these planning-level studies, the project advances into the environmental phase, which evaluates the project's potential to affect various natural and cultural resources. With environmental resources identified, design of the project is able to really begin. As the design of the project advances, so does the environmental process, and this results in the release of an environmental document for public review and comment, along with the design plans. It is at this time that a public hearing, like this one, is held. Following the public hearing, any additional work to finalize the environmental document for approval, as well as the design, occurs. As finalization of the design and environmental document happens, follow-up information to the public often occurs that communicates the project decisions before the project moves to construction. The intent of the public hearing is twofold. First, it is intended to explain the proposed project and receive your comments, concerns, and suggestions. Second, it is a requirement of the National Environmental Policy Act that the public be afforded the opportunity to be involved in the decision-making process. This includes accepting comments on the environmental document and preliminary plans. Early engagement of the public is intended to provide a better project for customers of NDOT. For this project, this hearing is a continuation of a public involvement process that really began over a year ago with an informational meeting held in August of 2019. Additionally, because this bridge is considered a historic bridge that is listed in the Indiana Historic Bridges Inventory, the convening of a public hearing is a requirement of the Historic Bridges Programmatic Agreement, signed between NDOT, the Federal Highway Administration, the State Historic Preservation Officer, and the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation. All comments that we receive through this process will be given full consideration and incorporated into the decision-making process. The format of the in-person portion of the public hearing includes an informal open house session before and after the formal presentation. During this time, the project team will be available to answer any questions that you may have regarding the project. Conversations you may have with project officials during the open house sessions are not included as part of the project record. If you are viewing this recording and unable to attend the in-person portion of the public hearing, but still have questions about the project, please feel free to contact either Jeremy Green or Chad Costa at the contact information provided here. In between the informal open house sessions, there will be a formal presentation by representatives of the project team. This presentation includes the project information contained in this video. A formal opportunity for the public to provide verbal comments for consideration by the project team will be offered following the conclusion of the presentation. After all individuals at the in-person portion of the public hearing have made their statements, the formal portion of the hearing will adjourn. There are several ways you may provide comments about the project. The options available include the following. Persons attending the in-person portion of the public hearing may make a formal public statement after the formal presentation. Your comments will be recorded by the project team for the project record. If you are viewing this recording online and wish to make a comment for the rest of the viewing community to see, we ask that you leave your comment in the comments section of this video below. Individuals not wanting to make a public statement may write their comments or questions down on the comment sheet that we have provided in a prepared information packet. These information packets will be available at the sign-in table during the in-person portion of the public hearing, but are also posted to the project website. Your completed comment forms are able to be emailed, sent via U.S. mail, or, if you are at the in-person portion of the hearing, they may be dropped in the comment box at the sign-in table. All comments submitted through the end of the public comment period, which is Friday, September 4th, will become part of the record, entered into the transcript, and given full consideration during the continued decision-making process for the project. Please remember, if you mail your comments, they must be postmarked no later than September 4th to be sure that your submittal will become part of the official record. This is also the deadline to receive any emailed comments, so please remember Friday, September 4th. Due to the funding participation by the Federal Highway Administration, the preparation of an environmental document is necessary. The environmental evaluation completed for this project was done in accordance with the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA. This law requires a hard look into any federal action's impacts to the natural and cultural environments. It also requires open engagement with the public throughout the decision-making process. Through the decision-making process of NEPA, sponsoring agencies establish a purpose and need, which identifies the deficiencies with the transportation facility and establishes desired goals for the solutions. From this, a range of alternatives are considered that address the purpose and need. The number of alternatives evaluated varies depending on scope and complexity of the project. The only alternative required to be evaluated is the do-nothing alternative, which serves as the baseline for comparison. Through a screening process, the project arrives at a preferred alternative that addresses the purpose and need with a desired order of environmental impact analysis to natural and cultural resources. That is, the identification of impacted resources to avoid, minimization of any resource impacts, and mitigation for any unavoidable impacts. Discussion of this information, as well as the likely impacts, are prepared in an environmental document. For this project, the appropriate level of documentation was determined to be a Level 4 categorical exclusion, or CE4, due to the involvement with a historic bridge. The CE4 was released for public involvement on July 22nd and is available for public review. The document will be available at the in-person portion of the public hearing and is also online at the project website. Hard copies of the document are also available at several other venues, which will be discussed later in the presentation. The project is located in downtown Portland along US 27, which is also known as Meridian Street. The bridge, which carries US 27 over the Salamone River, is located just a little over 1/10 of a mile south of Water Street. The project is located within the Portland Commercial Historic District, which is a resource listed in the National Register of Historic Places. Freedom Park and the Portland River Path are community recreational resources within the project area. The bridge to be rehabilitated as part of this project is historic and eligible for listing in the National Register of Historic Places. The US 27 bridge, which is a reinforced concrete through-arch structure that was originally constructed in 1914 and reconstructed in 1997, is considered a contributing resource to the Portland Commercial Historic District. The bridge is considered eligible for the National Register due to its unique design, which is a great example of a concrete through-arch structure in the state. Such structures were popular in the early 1900s, and this one remains a testament to a thriving downtown Portland. The US 27 bridge is listed in the Indiana Historic Bridge Inventory as a select bridge. This designation means it is suitable for preservation and considered an excellent example of its structure type when compared to other similar types of bridges throughout the state. Designation as a select bridge also means the bridge must be preserved when using funds from the Federal Highway Administration. Because the bridge is considered select in status, the project must follow the conditions set forth in the Historic Bridges Programmatic Agreement. It does so by following INDOT's Historic Bridge Project Development Process. As previously mentioned, one of the first steps in the environmental process is identifying the purpose and need for the project. The primary need for this project is evident due to the deteriorated condition of the existing bridge's thin deck overlay, or its wearing surface. The wearing surface of the deck, which was last inspected in 2019 by INDOT, was determined to be in poor condition and has an estimated remaining life of 5 years. Secondary to the primary need of the project is improving the appearance and condition of the coatings on the structure and its features. The paint coat on the existing steel railing and lampposts is peeling and exposing the steel underneath. In addition, the existing masonry coating on the arch and columns is discolored, cracked, and starting to peel. The City of Portland also desires improvements to the appearance of the bridge, as the bridge serves as a gateway to the historic downtown area. Gateway to the historic downtown area. The primary purpose of this project is to improve the condition of the deck wearing surface to a condition that is considered to be very good and to extend the overall life of the structure. The secondary purpose of the project is to improve the appearance of the structure and its features, which will act to slow future deterioration and meet the desires of the City of Portland. The only other alternative that was evaluated for this project was the do-nothing alternative. This alternative would not involve any improvements to the bridge. While this alternative eliminates costs and any environmental impacts, this alternative does not address the purpose and need for the project. Under this alternative, the bridge deck will continue to deteriorate. This continued deterioration will spread and accelerate deterioration of the underlying bridge deck floor system, requiring a more extensive rehabilitation to address the condition in the future. Therefore, it was eliminated from further consideration. The preferred alternative identified for the project involves the rehabilitation of the bridge. The rehabilitation activity will be completed in accordance with the Secretary of the Interior's standards for bridge rehabilitations. The Historic Bridges Programmatic Agreement requires the evaluation of several additional alternatives that are arranged from the least harmful to the most harmful to the historic bridge. The preferred alternative was found to be feasible and prudent, met the purpose and need for the project, and had the least harm to the historic bridge. Therefore, in accordance with the historic bridge project development process, analysis of the other alternatives is not required. In addition to the historical and cultural elements associated with the project that have been discussed, the environmental process also weighs the project's likelihood to impact other resource categories too. These include impacts to ecological or natural resources like streams, wetlands, and other waterways, floodplains, farmland, forests, and endangered species. Impacts to humans, or the cultural environment, are also considered. Such resource types under this heading include parks and recreational lands, community resources, effects to low-income or minority populations, and impacts that may result to air quality and ambient noise levels. The level of impact to these resources weighs into the need for mitigation and level of public involvement. Through the Section 106 process and the Historic Bridge Project development process, comments on the purpose and need, the alternatives analysis, and the effects of the project on cultural resources, including the bridge itself, have been sought from consulting parties. To date, there have been no objections regarding the project or the planned improvements. This process has resulted in the identification of a preferred alternative which, as previously mentioned, involves repairing and rehabilitating the bridge in a manner that retains its historic integrity. Because of the involvement with the bridge listed in the Indiana Historic Bridges Inventory, the convening of a public hearing is required. Following the end of the public hearing comment period, the environmental document will be approved by the Federal Highway Administration, which will mark the end of the Section 106 process. As part of the preferred alternative, the existing overlay atop the bridge deck, shown here as number 1, will be milled. All unsound concrete on the deck will be removed and patched with partial depth patching. A new 3/8 inch thick flexible polymeric concrete bridge deck overlay will be installed atop the milled and patched deck surface. The deck drains, located along the curb line, shown as number 2 here, will be cleaned to remove any debris that may be affecting deck drainage. The approaches to the bridge will be milled 1.5 inches for a distance of 50 feet from either end of the deck edge. A new 1.5 inch hot mix asphalt overlay will be placed atop the milled roadway surface. The new overlay will provide a sufficient transition from the bridge floor back into the existing roadway elevation. The limits of the south approach overlay operation is represented as number 3 here. In all, just over 123 linear feet of US 27 will be affected by the project. The existing concrete patch on the east arch column, shown here as number 4, will be removed along with any deteriorated concrete on the other columns, arch, or concrete portion of the railing. The existing masonry coating on the arch, columns, and concrete portion of the railing, shown as number 5 here, will also be cleaned. Patching concrete structures with a special microsilica concrete mix and welded steel wire reinforcement will be utilized in the areas of removed concrete. A patch material consisting of a concrete mix with microsilica will match the texture and color of the existing concrete components. After cleaning and patching the existing arch, columns, and concrete portion of the railing, the appearance of the concrete components will be reviewed. If the appearance of the cleaned masonry coating is not a good representation of the existing structure aesthetic, the masonry coating will be completely removed using a chemical concrete cleaner and stain removal and hand tools. Once removed, the concrete components will be surface sealed with a tinted seal for protection. The tint would provide color uniformity on the structure and closely resemble the existing masonry coating. The existing steel railing components and light fixtures, shown here as number 6, will be removed from the bridge and taken off-site for repairs. The existing paint system will be completely removed. The steel components will be shop galvanized and then painted using a powder coating method in a black matte finish to match the original appearance. The newly painted steel components will be reinstalled on the bridge with all new steel hardware. Until the railings are reinstalled, the sidewalks will remain closed. The surface of the sidewalk, curbs, and face of the curbs present on either side of the bridge, shown here as number 7, will be surface sealed with a sealer and/or healer coating. This will repair existing open cracks, preventing the underlying bridge deck floor system from penetrating chloride infiltration, slowing future deterioration. By making these improvements, the condition of the deck wearing surface will be upgraded to a condition considered to be very good. Additionally, the service life of the bridge is expected to be lengthened by 15 years. This is merely an estimate of time before additional improvements to the bridge may be required. However, it should be noted that in accordance with the Historic Bridges Programmatic Agreement, INDOT plans to preserve and maintain this historic bridge for at least 25 years. A consideration given to every project is how traffic will be maintained during construction. Because of the nature of the project and the operations required to place this type of overlay on the bridge deck, maintaining some sort of normal traffic conditions is unable to occur. Therefore, the maintenance of traffic plan requires the closure of US 27 during construction and establishing an official detour route. The signed detour route will utilize State Road 28 through Deerfield and Ridgeville, State Road 1 through Red Key, and State Road 67 to Portland. The total length of the detour is 24 miles and is expected to remain in place for up to 60 days. While the road is closed, access to properties within the project limits will be maintained at all times. The sidewalks will be closed, one side at a time, to ensure pedestrian access is maintained at all times. All construction activities associated with the project will remain within the existing state-owned right-of-way. There will be no need for additional permanent or temporary right-of-way to be acquired. The total estimated cost for the construction of the project is $515,000. The remaining schedule for the project includes final approval of the environmental document by October of 2020. After that, contracts will be prepared for a letting to a contractor by February of 2021. Once a contractor is selected, it will usually take them 2 to 3 months to mobilize, which means construction will likely begin in the spring of 2021. Several locations are serving as repositories for project documentation in an effort to make pertinent decision-making information available to the public for their review. Beginning on August 5th, the design plans and the environmental document were made available for public inspection at the INDOT Greenfield District Office located at 32 South Broadway Street in Greenfield, and the Office of Lockmuller Group, which is located in Suite 150 of 3502 Woodview Trace in Indianapolis. More locally, these documents were posted on August 5th at the Portland City Hall and the Jay County Public Library. Please note that should you want to view the documents at Portland City Hall, the scheduling of an appointment may be needed. In addition, this information, along with other documentation pertinent to the Section 106 process, like the Historic Bridges Alternatives Analysis and the No Adverse Effect Finding, are posted to the project webpage. These documents will remain available for public inspection at least through the end of the public comment period, which expires on Friday, September 4th. Following the public hearing, the public and stakeholders will be able to provide comments on the project through Friday, September 4th. Again, All comments that are received by this time will be given due consideration in the decision-making process. All comments will be responded to by the project team in the final environmental document, which will be made available at all the same locations that house the information for this hearing: the INDOT Greenfield District Office, the Indianapolis office of Lockmuller Group, the Portland City Hall, the Jay County Public Library, and on the project webpage. Following the approval of the environmental document, we will communicate the decisions made and the availability of the final documents back to you if you are on the mailing list. This communication can happen through direct mailings, working with the local media, social media outlets, as well as through a paid legal notice. We want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation regarding the US 27 Bridge project in Portland. Please feel free to contact either Jeremy Green with INDOT or Chad Costa with Lockmuller Group via the phone number or email provided here, should you have specific questions or comments relating to the project, and/or if you want to be added to the project mailing list. Also, we encourage you to visit the webpage for the Greenfield District to learn more about this project, as well as other projects in the district. INDOT strives for customer satisfaction and is always interested in hearing from customers about the facilities they are responsible for maintaining.